Awards. I'm going to start, and then I shall open out to you guys, the audience. Please don't do that thing of leaving it to the last minute where I say last question and you all put your hands up, so get in nice and early with your questions. Thomas, can I start with you, please, sir?
Of course.
I heard you say that you've been waiting your entire life for this Godzilla film. Why was now the right time for you and this group of incredible people?
Well, now was the right time because we had the rights. No, I've been a Godzilla fan my whole, since I was a little kid, and we wanted to bring kind of a fresh perspective to that, and we were very fortunate to come across Gareth Edwards. And if somebody would have said to me a long time ago, like, look, not only will you get to make a Godzilla movie, but you'll have this fantastic young director, and you'll have a cast that could easily be doing Shakespeare here in London versus a Godzilla movie, I would be really excited about that.
What specifically was it about Gareth? We'll pretend he's not here just for a second. That was a real attraction for you, for him to be part of this film.
I saw his movie Monsters, and I was astounded at what he did, for such little money, but you could tell there was a real talent behind the camera. And so I asked to meet him. He came in, and we spent some time together. And I was very, very impressed. And then we gave him some resources to make previs and some other things. And many of the shots that you see in the movie are directly, from the previs. And he's the only director we ever talked to about it.
Mr. Cranston, morning.
Good morning.
The script, what was it? You said that the script kind of blew your mind. What was it about the script that really kind of captured your imagination?
I think at first I was thinking that this was going to be just a monster movie, and it really isn't. And the thing that iced it for me, as far as wanting to be a part of it, was that it has a very strong character-driven narrative to it. Husband, wife, father, son, multi-generational. And I thought that was very clever, and I've always thought, why not? Why can't you meld those? Because you have the great, epic, iconic battles with monsters in a monster movie, and then you also have this group of people that you follow and care about and root for, and you can have it all, and it dovetailed very nicely into this movie.
Aaron, morning to you. Not a bad dad to have on screen as well. It's pretty good, pretty good dad to have. I wanted to ask you about Ford and what qualities about the character you really liked.
Well, I mean, for me, it was the real challenge there was playing a lieutenant in the Navy, playing that sort of American military guy. It was a role I hadn't played before, so I was really intrigued into kind of doing that. But yeah, I liked, I liked the fact that he was a father and a husband, and it had a real strong family element to it, and that, it sort of became a fight for survival at some point. He had to almost just try and get through in order to just reach his family and just have that moment together,
Yeah. Hi, Lizzie.
Hey.
Morning.
Morning.
She's a really determined character. I like her a lot. She kind of doesn't really let anything stand in her way, really. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it was fun to play a mother who's responsible for her own emotions and actions because of a child witnessing it, and so having that, trying to figure out how to go through things that are scary but not let on. It's kind of fun. Yeah.
You did that really well. You kind of see, you're kind of almost trying to hide that from your child. I kind of really related to that watching it myself. Gareth, morning, sir. How are you the morning after your premiere?
I feel like it was a wedding or something. And
That's a good sign.
it does feel like a wedding, but the bride didn't show up or something. So this embarrassing moment now, it's like, yeah, she left me. Right.
We heard from Thomas that, even before you'd kind of signed on to do the film, you had a really clear idea in your head about what you wanted to do and achieve with this film.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of different... I mean, that's one of the reasons I think Godzilla stood the test of time, is there's so many different ways we could have gone with this film. There's kind of this infinite canvas, and it took us 1.5 years of playing around to sort of land on the story that we wanted to tell. And it's, I think for me, I grew up with those 70s and 80s movies, you know, those early Spielberg type things, and it was before the era of digital technology. And because they couldn't always show the creature constantly, they would, like the first half of the movie would be these little glimpses, and your sense of anticipation, like with films like Alien, you know, by Ridley Scott, and like you just get so many chills and goosebumps that I felt like in modern cinema, you know, that it's so easy to just throw everything at the screen constantly that I've sort of missed that style of storytelling. And so, you know, from day one, you know, our constant references were things like Jaws and Close Encounters, and sort of harken back to that era of filmmaking, even though we have, obviously, you know, these amazing tools to do Godzilla justice.
This time round, was there any chance for that kind of very personal DIY input, or does a megabucks Hollywood budget deny that? And if not, do you miss that?
Yeah, I mean, so when we started, I did say, like, you know, can I do just one of the shots? I'm just going to do one, just for, like, old time's sake, it'll be fun. And they're like, yeah, whatever, Gareth, you know. And after the first week, it was really clear there was no way that was going to happen. Like, you don't even get a spare 5 minutes making a film. But, I mean, the beauty of it is that I was surrounded with the best of the best. Like, the visual effects supervisor is Jim Rygal, who did Lord of the Rings. We also had John Dykstra, who did the original Star Wars movie. And so you're working with, like, my heroes, you know, genuine heroes of mine. And so handing your baby over to people who can look after it way better than you can is an easy thing. It wasn't that difficult to give up.
But do you miss those moments of the quit?
Do I miss being all alone in a bedroom? Like, yeah, there was sort of like, I look back on Monsters, and probably my favorite part of that process was doing the effects from home, because, you know, you're on your own, there's no stress and stuff, and making this film is genuinely the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. And but, you know, the reward is things like last night, and when you get to show fans and you sit and watch it, and it's kind of like, you know, dreaming of the film is you know, a lot of fun. It's like where you have, you know, you can just close your eyes and imagine anything you want to see, and then showing the film is a lot of fun, but the middle bit is like, it feels like war.
Gentleman at the end there with a question, please.
Hello, I'm Marcus from Germany. I have a question about Godzilla, who turns 60 this year, so congratulations to Godzilla.
He says thank you.
He says,
Is that your ringtone now?
You can do anything you want, as long as at the end you go,
So was there a kind of pressure to get the movie ready for this year? And how did you deal with the Japanese to use the monster in a Hollywood version again?
Thomas, do you want to?
Well, you know, in terms of Toho, they were great. I mean, we had a clear understanding from the beginning with them. We looked at designs together, but from there, they trusted us to make the Godzilla movie that we wanted to, and they were great partners. So there wasn't a lot of controversy on that front.
I'd love to say we were really clever, and we were like, you know what? Let's never make this film ever until it's the 60th anniversary, because that would be perfect. We just got lucky in that sense. And I didn't realize this, but Ken pointed it out that, I'm going to get this a little bit wrong, but you know, they have the year of the dragon, it's every 12 years, it's repeats, and it's a 5-cycle thing, and then there's a rebirth. And so 60 years in Japan means the rebirth. And so it's highly appropriate. But I'd love to, we totally planned it that way. It was always, I was actually offered the job when I was 21, but we were like, no, let's do this properly.
I'm going to start at the back.
Gareth, but I'd also like to know what Elizabeth thinks. I thought this was a really great film. I'm going to start by saying that, and I really enjoyed it. But I just wonder if there's a tradition with films like this, that the female characters have to be kind of always supporting characters. I thought, Elizabeth, you were great, and you're the emotional centre of the film. But we've got three women, a wife who gets killed off in 5 minutes, a wife who's sitting at home waiting for her husband to get back, and Sally Hawkins, who's so much of an add-on that you literally have her standing 3 paces behind Ken in every shot. Is that a commercial decision because men go to these films?
Lizzie, do you want to?
Well, I have an opinion about, I guess our story, at least for me, Ford needs a counterpart in a way so that he, I think his journey, and correct me if I'm wrong, has to do with trying to figure out things with his father in order for him to become a better father. And if you need to follow one character from beginning, middle, and end of this film, it makes sense for it to be a lieutenant and someone who can navigate the U.S. military. And I do feel like I got to serve some sort of function by also being on the grounds as a nurse, instead of just, I don't know, I worked with a little boy. Maybe if it was a little girl, it would have been different, but I didn't feel that for my character, at least.
I mean, this is probably a good time to point out that Godzilla is actually a female. So...
In your face.
Star.
We at the last minute we changed from Godzilla Queen of the Monsters. Didn't sound too good, but I know what you're saying, and I think at the end of the day, I mean, we had a version of a screenplay that was, had a heroine at the center of it at one point, and at the end, you've got to pick a hero, and we ended up with a male, and then everything supports the hero in some way. But I totally understand what you're saying, and like my favorite film like this is like Alien and Aliens, and I think there's so many great examples, and who knows if we get lucky and there's a sequel or anything like that, then very much take on board what you said.
Hello everyone, I really enjoyed the film. My question, Godzilla is the king of the monsters, and I was just wondering if you could have him go up against any other movie monster, who would you pick and why?
Who would like to answer that one?
I hate Jaws. So I feel like that would be an easy swallow of a battle.
Yeah, good answer. Next question. Can you pass the mic to your left, please? Thanks.
Bryan, can I ask you, how many of the old Godzilla movies have you watched, and which one is your favorite?
I always harken back to the first one I ever saw from 1954. I was a huge Godzilla fan as well. In fact, I had the little figurines of Godzilla, and I would go into my mother's kitchen and get cups and bowls and things and fill them with dirt and glasses with dirt, and I'd turn them upside down to make molds to make my own little city, and then my Godzilla would come through and crash through the whole thing. I just loved it. So that was, but I remember the Raymond Burr version of it, when they inserted him into the Japanese movie. And later on, when I realized how they actually came about doing that, I thought that was very clever. So by doing that, though, it made it a universal appeal to it. And so it wasn't just in the Japanese market, but it created a fervor throughout the world. There have been some other films that have come along that have been, a measured degree of success. But I think I'm really happy with this one because of the fact that we really took the time to invest in the characters. And in a way, you could actually, if you just took the storyline of the characters, you could have like a separate movie in and of itself, it could be, that they're fighting to get back and reunite in their family. But to have both, I think, makes the experience more rewarding.
I have two questions for Gareth. It's Celia, sorry, from Spain. The first question is obviously the film, one of the most important things is the creator, the monsters. I would like to know how long took you to create your ideal Godzilla, and if it is something that drives you crazy. I don't know if you see now the Godzilla in the big screen and say, maybe I like to change this or that. And the second thing is that for the last 60 years, there is many versions of Godzilla as a character of superhero and some monster. Who tell you that you have to create a Godzilla like a superhero? I mean, it was your decision to create a Godzilla to save the humanity, or don't you feel for a while that maybe it's a monster and have to destroy everything?
Sure. I mean, the great thing about Godzilla, I think, is if you had a load of images of silhouettes of characters in cinema history, and you went around the world and you showed people them, and as soon as someone went, "Who's that?" or they didn't recognize it, you threw it away. I feel like the grand final would be between Mickey Mouse and Godzilla. And I think what makes something iconic is it has a very strong silhouette. And so when we designed him, we literally we put settings on the computer, so he didn't have any texture. He was pitch black, like jet black against pure white. And we just kept rotating him and just pushing and pulling and trying to get the silhouette looking just right. And it was like a Rubik's Cube. You'd get one side good, and then you'd turn it, and you'd ruin the other side. But you couldn't cheat and peel the stickers off like normal. So it took nearly a year to get it to a place where we could rotate it 360 degrees and go, I don't want to change anything. And I genuinely, I don't think you're probably a filmmaker if you don't always feel like, I could have just done this and I could have just done that. But the one thing that I do feel when I look at Godzilla, it's like I don't really want to change anything. I feel like I'm very happy with how we got him. And the reason he's an anti-hero in the movie is because there are other things that he confronts. And I couldn't imagine a version of this film where the audience is not rooting for Godzilla. So it's kind of inevitable once you have another thing. I think that was always going to be the way.
What I liked about the film is that you've made a plausible story. It's not just a monster movie, there's far more going on. I think it's because it's rooted in reality, bizarrely, and it's straight. You play it straight. You don't play it for laughs. And I wondered, Thomas and Gareth, if that was always the intention, that there were going to be no gags in this film.
Well, thank you. But
Yeah, we sort of had a set of rules going in, that he was going to look like Godzilla, that we didn't want to do the campy version. We wanted to imagine as best we could what would happen if you turned on the TV and Godzilla had come ashore. What would the reactions be and so forth. And that really was a choice from the very beginning, and something that, from the very first conversations with Gareth that we talked about and that he embraced. So I don't know if you want to.
No, I mean, I think if the thing is if this really happened, I love to take these sort of things seriously, but if it really happened, if there really was a giant monster who came out and did these things, it would be the most horrific, world-changing event ever. And this is what we said, that's what Bryan was talking about, I think, in that it would be like World War II or even worse. And within that, you've got such a range of different films. You can have Saving Private Ryan and Casablanca, and we wanted to do, take it seriously and it'd be a very emotional, life-changing event. And I don't know, I think these things are most fun for me when you really believe it and you really get pulled into that world. And there is sort of comedy within the film, but it's not, I feel like the important difference is that the characters are not finding it funny. Like, the filmmaker can find things funny and show things that makes you chuckle to yourself or something, but the characters that are actually going through the events are having a very traumatic time, so they shouldn't be doing wisecracking one-liners and things like that. But.
Gentleman in the front row with a microphone.
Yeah, question for Gareth. Godzilla and nuclear energy has always been kind of a twin concept. How important was it for you, and do you see it at the end as a kind of, warding against all problems with nuclear energy?
Yeah, I think the first thing you do on day one is you sit down and say, so what is a Godzilla movie? What is it? What is it about? And it's not a simple answer. And what we arrived at was that Godzilla represents nature, really. and that what's going on in our film is the other things in the movie represent man's abuse of nature. And it's just this whole idea that the more we try and control nature, the more we try and think that we can somehow contain it. It always backfires and something goes wrong, like, especially with nuclear power and things like that. And so this movie is really about the fact that we can't control nature, nature controls us. And when we landed on that, we sort of tried to amplify it as much as we could through the movie.
Done films which are very small and inventive and now a big blockbuster. Do you have a game plan for alternating between the two now, or is there one you prefer? And just a very quick supplementary question to Aaron. Is there any plans for Kick-Ass 3? And will you be involved if there is?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is this, right? This is the honest answer to that question, is no, there's no Kick-Ass 3, no.
That was going to be my answer anyway. So no.
Is that there's like, you do a personal film, or whatever you want to call that word, but you do a personal film, and I'm lying if I'm saying I want that film to be as popular as possible. Like, that's the most important thing. It's pointless exercise if you do something that's a passion project and no one sees it. Like, what's the point in that? And if you do a commercial film or a popular film, you want to make it as personal as possible. You want to make it as creative and as artistic. And so whichever end of the spectrum you're coming at it, you're sort of heading for the same place. And so, I mean, I don't know what will end up happening next, but I'm always trying to, like, the goal is to get to that sweet spot, where people really like the movie and you're proud of it. I mean, I think anyone's lying if they're not trying to combine the two, really. And Kick-Ass?
Well, I think, I'm not contracted to do 3, but I wasn't contracted or signed to do number 2 either. So, we kind of came to it at a certain point altogether. And so, I can't rule it out, but, there's no plans for it. So.
How about Kick-Ass versus Godzilla?
Now we're talking.
Just throwing it out there.
Won't last very long, I don't think.
We've got someone with a camera right at the back with a microphone.
Hi guys. First of all, congratulations, an absolutely magnificent film. My question's to the cast. I mean, obviously it's been discussed today. Back here, by the way. Right here, there you go. Straight in. Obviously it's been discussed. This is a film about Godzilla, but it's also about very human stories. I'm curious, Bryan and Aaron, if you can talk a little bit about working on this wonderfully compelling father-son dynamic. And for Lizzie and Aaron, obviously you're playing husband and wife in this, but you're also playing brother and sister in the new Avengers film. And if it was it was difficult for you at times keeping those kind of different relationships separate.
No, we do the same thing, and it's very close knit.
Wow, it's that kind of movie.
I feel like after you play husband and wife, you feel like brother and sister. So, might have been awkward the other way around.
What about the father-son relationship?
Oh, it's easy to, I mean, I am a father, so it's easy to roll into that. He's a father, too, so it's easy for that relationship to take place. When you sign on to do a piece like this, you really are looking at the material, you talk to the director, you agree to it, and then you hope that when you get on the set that you'll make a connection. It's not imperative that you do, but the fact that we got along and like each other just made it easier to meld into that relationship.
Although we have this kind of feud, and I'm supposed to be angry at him all the time, although he'd be cracking jokes a lot. So, I can't stay angry at Bryan.
And he acted like my son. I would say something and he would roll his eyes and like, oh, great. The general disrespect for the elderly.
Got a question down here at the front.
Hi there. I've got a question from my 9-year-old son, Hag, who loved the film, by the way. His question is, to all of you, if you came home, turned on the TV, and your local town was being attacked by monsters, what would be the first thing you'd do?
Good question.
I would call my mother, just to make sure that she was capable of exiting her own home.
I'd make a sandwich and watch the play unfold. Like a sporting event.
Thomas?
Maybe I'd call Bryan and ask if I could come over and have a sandwich and watch it. Maybe.
You gotta see this, man. It's great. We're all gonna die anyway. Come on.
It's HD.
All right. Aaron?
I really can't follow.
Okay. Should we leave it there then? Let's leave it there then. Okay.
Hi. You've spoken about how it took nearly a year to create the monster, but once you arrived at that image, I read in the production notes that you used Andy Serkis to help. Can you explain how, please?
Initially, the motion capture was all done by Bryan Cranston. And after a few test screenings, we felt Godzilla was a little bit camp.
I thought it was good. Little Bob Fosse.
Jazz hands Godzilla, that I want to see.
No, Andy came on quite late in the day, not what you normally do, and the reason being is it was all animated by the long, painful way by animators. Everything you saw in the film was done by visual effects companies, but Andy Serkis and his team came in because basically you're trying to find like performance, and the fastest way to do it is to have an actor. And as we were coming through the crunch time of all the post-production, the fastest result was to get Andy in, and he did a handful of the shots, quite a few, and found the soul of Godzilla, and a lot of the shots that are the more soulful moments, Andy's performance as reference for the animators. But I think Andy's he gets associated with motion capture, but he's a genius actor, I think, and it's very clear when you look at the performances he does in motion capture and you go, oh my God, that's amazing, and then you see the behind the scenes and you see Andy and you go, that would win an Oscar, you know what I mean? And he's just underrated, I think, and it was a real, it was a dream come true for me to be able to work with him.
Right. Might hurt someone, but
question on Elizabeth from Hungary. Hi. A country you've never been, I think.
Nope.
She's been hungry before, but
yeah.
Not too.
Two of your movies are coming out this week, I'm sorry. And
Yeah, I just learned that like a week ago.
And you're smiling at the world at every newsstand on the cover of a popular magazine saying Hollywood's new sweetheart. I would like to know, what is your perception of hitting the big time? What are your thoughts and feelings about it?
My perception hasn't changed probably in the last 2 years. I feel really lucky that I get to work with awesome actors right now. The ensemble of this film is kind of unreal in an international way, and it feels cool. Even though I didn't get to work with most of them, it just feels awesome that I could be in the same film with them, and it's the same thing with Avengers. But yeah, I don't know. My life my actual life hasn't really changed much except for the prospect of getting better work.
Gentleman there.
You have a very long list of credits, film and TV credits, but it seems like since Breaking Bad, your celebrity status has reached new levels. And my question is, how has your life and career changed since this enormous success?
I was dubbed the new darling of Hollywood, just like Elizabeth was. An actor really is only hoping for opportunity. And we've been very fortunate on this dais to be able to have that come to us. And if that's what stardom means, then I accept that. That's what it means to me, that I can work at a greater level of material and to be able to have more say in what we do. When you first start out as an actor, if your agent calls you and says they'd like you to do, you say yes before they're finished with what project it was, because you need the job. And so that's why, when you first start out, you have a lot of product on there that you've done that you're not particularly proud about, but everything was a stepping stone to get to an opportunity where you can then have more control of your own destiny. So, but the other thing is that, for Breaking Bad or whatever movie, or Kick-Ass, or you don't really know how it's going to be received. You do a project in a bubble, and you like the work, you like the people you're working with, and you hope for the best. And Breaking Bad became this, this larger-than-life mushroom cloud that none of us could have anticipated. We're very grateful for it, but it's certainly not something that we were working toward that becoming. It's the public, it's the fans that create a classic film or television show. It's up to them to decide if it weathers the test of time. And so too will be this version of our film. In time, people will look back and say that Godzilla of 2014 was fantastic, except for a couple of the direction. They'll say it was great. Thank you, though.
Gentleman here with a cap on, and then we'll come down here at the front as well.
Express frustration with working with huge crews. How did you overcome that with this one, and did you overcome it very easily?
I know exactly what you're on about, and thanks for pointing that out. It was when I was working in TV, and I think the problem with TV is it's trying to be a Hollywood movie or a Hollywood's quality of filmmaking, but it hasn't got the resources. So when you get to do it for real, and you literally have millions of dollars and the best crew in the world, and it is insane. I mean, it is, the thing that I was most surprised about was, you do a small film, there's 5 of you, and you kind of then do this massive movie where there's 300, you think it's going to be this massive difference. But
Sorry.
But you have to at the end. But then you drive onto set, and you literally, as the director, you're in a bubble, and they drive you straight to the camera, and you don't meet anybody. You get out, and all you speak to all day long is the assistant director, the cameraman, and the actors. And you literally just know 5 people kind of thing. And the most embarrassing thing is at rap parties, because I don't know anybody. And if there was a quiz at the end of a shoot, and you smile at people every day, and they went, "What does he do?" I'd be like, "I don't know." Stands near a light, holds a microphone. You're just protected. And so I was kind of could convince myself, thank God, that I was making this intimate movie with just a handful of people that just happened to have 300 spectators around the sides. So that's how I got through it. But
down the front of your question.
Right, thanks. I've got a question for Gareth. I've got with me the 1996
Farnham
Institute Farnham Farnham Film School document. And in here there's a film called Arrivals, written, produced, directed and photographed by Gareth Edwards. And on there's a quote. I won't read out the whole quote, but it says, "Our aim is to show just what is possible with a relatively small amount of money and a little imagination." So how do you feel now you've moved on from the relatively small amount of money bit of the quote? How's your filmmaking philosophy changed?
You know what's funny about that film that no one's ever going to see? Is it was a monster movie. And it was 1996. And it was... as a kid, seriously, if you ask me, I got thrown out of school, out of class when I was 10, and I remember storyboarding a little short film, and I always wanted to do this, but it's I never expected it to happen. This is just so surreal that if I think about it for too long, I either start to get emotional or I start to get the shakes or something. I can't process it. I can't process, what's happened. Do you feel the same way? Because you've obviously always dreamed of being really successful actors, and now you're here. What's it feel like?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Right, we've got time for one more question. Oh, see, we go. There's the hands up at the end of it. I'm going to go right.
I'd like to ask Gareth, you mentioned earlier about a sequel. Would you like to do a sequel to the film? Right at the back.
She's over there in that corner.
And would you like to do a sequel to the film? And if so, what would you like to do in that sequel? And Erin and Elizabeth, would you like to be in that sequel, and where would you like your characters to go if they were?
Oh, how awkward is that?
I'd love to see the ghost of Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
Come back to haunt everybody.
Yeah. That's the next monster to battle.
I sat down with Thomas the other night and had a meal, and we were just celebrating the fact that we'd finished the movie and we're about to do all the publicity. And inevitably, as you're chatting, sequel, do we talk about it? What do you want it to say? And we both agreed not to jinx it, and we said, you know what? Let's just let this play out. Let's see how people react. Let's see how they respond. And, if it all going well, May 17th, we'll be having another meal, and we'll try and figure it out, I think.
It's kind of like just having a baby and someone else asking you, are you going to have another? Yeah, it's like, oh.
They do as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry we couldn't get through everyone's questions. We really appreciate you all being here and your questions. And please a round of applause for our incredible panel tonight. Gareth, Elizabeth, Aaron, Brian and Thomas. Thank you.